If you are planning a trip to Krakow, there are a few things you really need to understand before you arrive, because this city works a little different from most European destinations. Krakow isn't just about ticking off landmarks. It's Poland's former royal capital, one of the few major cities that survived World War II largely intact, and a place where medieval streets, Jewish history, and a modern life all overlap in a very visible way. In this video, we're not rushing. This is a detailed Krakow travel guide for first-timers, covering what to see, why it matters, how it works, and what you actually need to know before you visit. Starting at the Barbican and St. Florian's Gate, because this is where medieval Krakow began. Back in the 1400s, Krakow was Poland's capital. Wealthy, powerful, and that made it a target. The city was surrounded by a huge defensive system. Walls, moats, and over 40 towers designed to slow enemies before they reached the city itself. Most of that system is gone now, but the Barbican and the St. Florian's Gate are what's left. The Barbican was built at the end of the 15th century as part of this defensive network. St. Florian's Gate wasn't just functional, it was ceremonial. Important visitors and returning kings passed through here. You don't need to go inside the Barbican unless you're really into military history. Tickets are usually around £5, but keep in mind that the Barbican is seasonal, so it may be closed at certain times of the year for visitors, such as right now.
Once we pass under St. Florian's Gate, we officially enter the royal route.
This isn't a tourist invention. Polish kings, queens, and dignitaries followed this route for centuries during coronations, state visits, and religious ceremonies. The royal route connects three key parts of Krakow. The city entrance at St. Florian's Gate, which controlled who was allowed inside. The main market square, where trade, public life, and official announcements took place. And Wawel Hill, the political and royal center where Polish kings lived, ruled, and were crowned. One detail that's really easy to miss is, notice how straight the route is. This was intentional. Straight ceremonial routes symbolize authority, order, and control, and they were designed to impress and be easy to guard. If you're visiting, walking the royal route is a natural way to understand the city layout and one of the best ways to experience Krakow. It's completely walkable, packed with history, and naturally connects the city's most important areas. The full royal route takes about 30 to 40 minutes without stops. But realistically, you will spend much longer once you factor in food and sightseeing. This is the one problem with Poland. The food is just so good and tempting. This is a Kinder Bueno pastry. I've never seen this in my life.
This is the main market square known locally as Rynek Główny.
It's the largest medieval market square in Europe, and its layout has barely changed since the 13th century. Historically, this is where trade, public announcements, celebrations, and even executions once took place. Today, it's the social center of the city, surrounded by cafes, churches, and historic buildings. Two landmarks dominate the square.
This is St. Mary's Basilica, one of the most important buildings in Krakow and easily one of the most recognizable.
It's a Gothic church built before the square itself was laid out, which is why it looks slightly misaligned with everything around it. The city grew around the church, not the other way around.
You'll also notice it, the two towers are not the same height.
There are legends explaining this, the most famous involving two brothers whose rivalry ended in tragedy. Historically though, the towers had different functions. The taller tower was a watchtower, and the shorter one housed bells. Every hour on the hour, a trumpet call known as the Heshnał Mariaki is played from the taller tower. The melody ends abruptly, which according to legend comes from a medieval guard being struck by an arrow mid-call during a Mongol invasion in the 13th century. If you want to visit inside, the best time is summer, so you can climb the taller tower for views over Krakow. But tickets are limited, so it's best to book ahead. At the center of the market square is the Cloth Hall, one of the most important commercial buildings in Krakow's history. In medieval times, Krakow was a major trade hub along European routes. Merchants sold cloth, spices, leather, and luxury goods here, generating wealth that helped the city flourish. Today, it's partly a museum and a souvenir market, but bear in mind that it does close on Mondays, so make sure you plan ahead. While exploring the old town, one local snack you absolutely need to try is the obwarzenek. It does feel quite hard to the touch. I think it's going to be quite difficult to bite into it. And I'm pretty sure that we got a cheese flavored one, but the communication was quite difficult. It's definitely a cheese one. And it's so good. It's not what I expected. I thought it was going to be really hard, but once you start biting into it, it does become quite chewy and really flavorful. But the best part is the price. This costs €1. We actually seen other places selling it for 80 cents, and it's so filling. It's so culturally important that it's legally protected, meaning only vendors following a traditional recipe can sell it under that name. You will see them sold from blue carts around the old town, usually topped with salt, poppy seeds, or sesame. Just remember to bring some cash with you because not all the vendors accept card. From the main market square, the royal route continues along Grodzka Street towards Wawel Hill. Nowadays, it is a vibrant pedestrian street lined with historic buildings, cafes, and shops. You will pass landmarks like St. Peter and Paul Church and St. Andrew's Church, both worth a quick look if you do have the time. At the end of Grodzka Street is Wawel Royal Castle. And this isn't just another historic site. It's considered the most important place in Poland's national history. For over 500 years, this was the political, royal, and spiritual heart of the country. Wawel Royal Castle was the residence of Polish kings from the Middle Ages until the capital moved to Warsaw in the late 16th century. What makes Wawel especially interesting is that it isn't just one single architectural style. The castle evolved over centuries, blending medieval fortifications with Renaissance courtyards and later Baroque influences. But now Wawel Castle is a museum complex with a ticketing system you should pay close attention to. Different sections like the staterooms, the royal apartments, and crown treasury all require separate tickets, usually around £5 to £8 per section. If you're short on time, even walking the castle grounds and courtyard for free is absolutely worth it. Right next to the castle is Wawel Cathedral, which is just as important. This is where Polish kings were crowned and actually where many of them are buried.
We weren't aware of this before, but following the Dragon Den's path, we found this very beautiful point where we can pretty much see this entire side of the city.
Just outside the royal castle grounds is Poland's most famous legend. According to the story, a dragon once lived in a cave beneath Wawel hill and terrorized the city. When the dragon was defeated, the city was finally able to thrive. You will find the dragon statue outside the cave, and yes, it does really breathe fire every few minutes. It's genuinely unbelievable. If you are visiting in peak season, try to come early in the morning or later in the evening because this place can get quite busy. Damn, that's why the mouth is so burnt. It actually is fire. Real fire.
The view from the castle was impeccable, but the view to the castle is even better. We managed to find this amazing bridge just opposite the Dragon Dens, and honestly, the combination of the lake with the castle just makes it absolutely magical. I couldn't think of a more perfect time to stop at a milk bar. This is a traditional Polish eatery known for being affordable and of course serving Polish food.
While we debate on what to eat, we've actually put together a Google Maps list with over 100 locations across Krakow. It includes milk bars, markets, restaurants, landmarks, and places you really shouldn't miss. We've priced it at just under $3 because honestly, even one good recommendation can save you time and money. And this gives you loads. We've left the link at the top of the description, so if you want to make planning easier and get the most out of your trip, definitely check it out. Of course, we can't go wrong with the traditional pierogi. You usually find fillings like potato and cheese, meat, mushrooms, or even sweet options. But we chose the meat one because I'm a picky eater. And then on the other side, Max chose something based on what everyone else was getting. We don't really know what it is. Pretty sure it's like a pork schnitzel with some cabbage and mashed potatoes. But it looks incredible and it smells incredible. First time trying pierogi. The filling is so thick. Really good, and the meat is seasoned extremely well, and I think the onions add an immense amount of flavor.
You can tell this place was a complete success because the food was delicious, the prices were incredible. We paid under £10 for these two humongous portions, but also it's only locals in these restaurants. We are the only tourists here, which I think it elevates the experience. What we'll be doing so that you can find this restaurant is we'll be including it in the Google Maps list that we will be creating about Krakow, and it'll be on the top of the description, so make sure you check it out.
After exploring the old town and Wawel, we are heading into a completely different side of Krakow, Kazimierz. Kazimierz was originally a separate city founded in the 14th century. For centuries, it became the center of Jewish life in Krakow, and at its peak, it was one of the most important Jewish communities in Europe. Before the Second World War, tens of thousands of Jewish people lived here, shaping the area's culture, food, and identity. During the war, the Jewish population was forced out, and Kazimierz was left largely abandoned. For decades, it was neglected, which is exactly why so much of it survived. What you see today isn't a reconstruction. It's real history. This is the reason why it's known as the Jewish Quarter. Kazimierz is also home to several historic synagogues, including the Old Synagogue, the oldest surviving one in Poland. One other thing you will notice in Kazimierz is the abundance of street art. Here, they often serve as remembrance rather than decoration. Plac Nowy is a square that has been converted into the social heart of Kazimierz. By day, it's calm and local. By night, it becomes one of Krakow's liveliest areas. This is where you will find zapiekanka.
It's basically an open-faced baguette, or as some other people call it, panini. And they usually come with cheese and mushrooms, and then you can add extra toppings, as I did. It's a reasonable price and definitely filling after a long day walking.
According to the owner, the most popular among locals are number 3 or 25. Kazimierz is also one of the best areas in Krakow for food, atmosphere, and nightlife. One of the most popular day trips from Krakow, and for good reason, is the Wieliczka Salt Mine. We found the easiest way to get there was to catch the bus. Line 304 loops around the old town, takes about an hour, and costs £1. The best part is that it drops you right outside, just a 2-minute walk. The salt mine is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, showcasing centuries of European mining history, economic power as Poland's white gold, and remarkable underground artistry with chapels, statues, and chandeliers carved from salt. Before refrigeration, salt meant survival, so this became one of the most valuable resources in Europe. The mine stretches over 300 kilometers of tunnels across multiple levels, but as visitors, we can only access a small section. One of the highlights is the Chapel of St. Kinga, a full-sized underground church carved entirely from salt. You can't explore on your own. Guided tours are mandatory, lasting around 2.5 to 3 hours. We paid £30 per person and we chose the tourist route. Our tour guide was super engaging and fun, and even though there are many tourists, it's so well organized so the experience doesn't feel overcrowded. If you come in the winter like we did, just make sure to wear lots of layers as the temperature in the mine are comfortable, but once you come out, it's absolutely freezing. Back in Krakow, one of the most important places to visit is Schindler's factory. Oskar Schindler was a German industrialist who saved over 1,000 Jewish people from the Holocaust by employing them in his enamelware factory. The factory is located on Lipowa Street, in the original building where Schindler ran his business. The museum doesn't focus solely on Schindler himself. It tells the story of the people of Krakow. Exhibits show how ordinary life was disrupted, how communities survived, and how daily existence was shaped. The displays explain how Jewish families were forced into ghettos, how resistance movements operated, and the reality of life under wartime. Adult tickets are around £15, but for £3 more, you can get a guided tour, which is absolutely worth it, especially if you want to have a better understanding of the history. If you're planning a trip here, we hope you found this video useful. Please give it a like, subscribe for more travel guides like this, and we'll link below our Krakow Google Maps and planning resources. Thank you for watching!